Ever feel like no matter how much advice you give, your team doesn't change? Well, well, maybe it's because they don't need fixing. They just need to be coached. Let's talk about this in this particular episode of the Leader's Lens. Now, I am notorious in being a fixer. Shout out to my mama. You see a need to fill it was one of the main things we talked about a lot growing up in the household. So I'm often thinking about, all right, how do I help solve that problem? How do I help fix that issue? How do I help somebody else solve that problem, fix that issue? What words can I say to galvanize and encourage them to say, you got a problem, I have a solution, do what I say, right? And this value, while real important to have to be a problem solver, we got to be able to read the room. We got to be able to understand when and where and how do we need to utilize our voice or help be a problem solver, or where we need to take a step back and be like, okay, maybe I just need to listen. Maybe I just need to coach. Maybe I just need to guide. Leaders often find themselves trapped in this problem solving space because honestly, that's what you're hired for. You're hired to solve problems, remove barriers, remove obstacles, help people succeed. And sometimes doing so could be a hindrance because you could be doing the work for them, or you could be pushing them away from the opportunity of them solving the problem when they just needed you just to be an encourager and empower them to do the work. So the difference here that I've been shifting, and I want you all to engage in this shift as well, is instead of just fixing the problem, like telling people what to do or having them try to solve the problem or solving the problem for them, what if you just coach them up? What if we coach them up to kind of ask them what questions or ways that we can encourage them to see opportunities for them to make the change, to make the shift, to help solve that problem? So, for an example, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you are working on a problem and a problem comes to you, or somebody says, hey, I need your help to do this. I, I I need your help, right? Or I have this problem of doing communication and filling out this email, filling out this form, whatever, right? You could say, hey, this is exactly what you need to do. If I was you, I would do this. I would do X, Y, and Z. I would fill this out. I would not block my time out. I would do this, right? But they didn't come to you to ask for that. They just said, this is my problem. What if you shifted to kind of say, what's the one approach that you might do differently to make it happen? What have you worked so far? What have you done? Tell me more about this issue. Where have you seen success so far? Where have you seen opportunities of growth? Do you just want to vent, right? Because sometimes people just want to vent. They don't necessarily want their problem solved. They just want to say, yo, I got this issue. I trust you. I just want to tell you, get it off my chest. And maybe through the conversation, I'll be able to figure out what I need to do and I'll move on, right? That could be very beneficial in the way that you are working and growing in your leadership, and being a guidance and a coach in this way versus somebody who is telling folks what to do. We're in this stage now where information is galore, right? We have Google, AI, books, all the things, right? There's so many things out there that can like give us the specific answers we need. And sometimes we just need somebody to talk to kind of be that guide, or just to help reframe the lens and reframe the perspective so we can work on those things and stay in the moment and feel encouraged and empowered to actually solve the problem for ourselves. So I want you just to I want to nudge you a little bit. I want to help you. You didn't ask for this. I'm solving your problems. All right. So maybe I'm doing this myself. But what I will ask you, I would ask you to be a coach. I will ask you, what does it look like for your leadership to move from a fixing perspective to a coaching perspective? What does it look like for your leadership to stop, to not just tell people what to do, but to ask them what they think they should do? What does that do for the team? What does that do for you and your leadership? Honestly, for me, I practice this a lot in my one-on-ones and in my conversations and in just the work that I do. And what I find is it not only encourages the other person to process and think and utilize their own strengths and skills, it could create space to help open up the gaps of what may be happening when it comes to knowledge and understanding and curiosity. It also encourages that person to say, oh, actually, I can do this. Like, I know what I'm doing, right? It provides validation. And then at the same time, the more you do that, those questions can come up for them to think through, hey, what would Ray ask me, right? What would Ray ask me in the situation? Or how should I think through this to help solve this problem? And then you're able to see it for themselves, be like, oh, snap, you didn't even come to me. Like, you got it. You the one out here. You the top dog, right? Sometimes I say that at work, sometimes I don't. So I would ask you to ask those similar questions. What does it look like for you to be a coach instead of a fixer? In most of those conversations, use your situational leadership to recognize when's the best time to do one or the other. Sometimes there's some initiatives where it's like, yo, you got to tell people what to do because it's crunch time, it's a crisis, and folks don't need necessarily to be asked what's going on. That's kind of like the wartime type of mentality. But the peacetime type of mentality is developing and cultivating that lens for people to exercise that similar perspective, and they could practice that within their own leadership and solve their own problems using the tools that they have at hand. And then if they come up and say, actually, I really do need this specific help, can you help fix it? Some of that pre-work has already been done. Some of the foundation has already been laid, and it can help then elevate to say, yes, let's solve this higher problem issue, or let me help connect that bridge so you can get that work done. So I urge you to ask this question. I suggest you to ask this question to your team. What is one way you think you can solve this problem? What is one way you think we can solve this problem? Excuse me, inclusive language. What is one way you think we can solve this problem? To invite the dialogue, to invite the conversation, to bring everybody to the table, to utilize their strengths and skill sets and coach them to say, you have what it takes. You know what you need to get done, and you have what you need. And if you do come into a real stopping point where you absolutely need more directing, I can provide that for you. And watch your team be empowered, watch your team grow, watch the strength of that critical thinking and critical lens occur a lot quicker when you coach them to up in that way. So people don't need fixing. They just need to be heard. They need to be guided. They need to be empowered. And in your leadership, you have the capabilities of doing that. If you like this episode, share this with a friend. Who is the friends around you that also need some little bit of love and encouragement to say, hey, let's be coaches together as we lead this team. Share this episode with them. Tag me at Ray Devante. Tell me what your thoughts are on this episode and how you're leveraging this for your leadership on all social media platforms. Again, subscribe to this podcast, Leaders Lens Show. And if you want deeper insights, if you want to get this in your inbox, the Leaders Lens newsletter is the place for you. You can subscribe to the Leaders Lens newsletter, get these insights, get the specific frameworks and the research related to this particular work, so that way you can be the best leader that you can be and create inclusive communities where every identity belongs and thrives.